So I'm going to get into in this video really just the disastrous quarterback play that happened. I mean, maybe disastrous is a strong word, but it was definitely poor at times, and you'll really see why. And I think it really came back to bite the Steelers in a massive way. Obviously, when you get down to your backup quarterback, it's not going to go as well, and they've struggled to even figure out who their backup is, but they've gone back and forth with Hodges and Rudolph for some time now. But this is probably their worst loss of the season. In fact, I think the Jets have actually handed three different teams their worst loss of the season. You have the Raiders and the way that the Jets blew out the Raiders, also the Cowboys, and now the Steelers. The Jets are a weird team. I mean, I don't know what's going on with them. I can make a video about that in the future. But in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is definitely a tough one. It's one that you figured you were going to win going into, and now you kind of have to play catch up a little bit. You can't just control your own destiny the way you would have if you won this game. Now the Steelers need to win Week 17, and they need to tighten the loss. But anyways, let's get into what went wrong and the reason they did lose this game. And one of the things that happened was a play like this, where it's going to be a cover 3 zone blitz, meaning that there's going to be 6 guys dropping back in the coverage. There will be 5 men rushing the passer. And so for Hodges, he has a route that he likes, and it's going to be that route right there. And it makes total sense to look for this route as you see on paper. I mean, it's going to get into a gap in coverage past the linebackers, but still not too far to get to where a defensive back would be or a safety would be. So that is definitely where Hodges is going to look to throw this ball to right when the ball is snapped. And as you see, I mean, he's kind of getting open. If you look right in that circle, there's a Jet who is letting him get past him because he's saying, okay, you're out of my zone at this point. But there is another New York player in the area. So for Hodges, this is kind of a mailbox type throw, and on a 3rd down and 10 at your opponent's 45-yard line, it's actually not the worst thing in the world to take this chance, but I do think that he probably should have made this throw earlier if he was going to make this chance, and also, his throw just isn't a very good one. It's pretty low and also not thrown as quickly as he would have liked. He also just didn't time it well, and that's why it gets picked off. Not really the best play by Duck, and that's kind of why he is a 3rd stringer going into the season, and he's at best a backup because he doesn't have the arm talent that other guys do, and it really does hurt them in a lot of ways. I don't want to just bash the guy. I mean, he does do some things very, very well, but the reality is, I mean, being able to throw the football is a pretty important part in being a quarterback, and if he doesn't throw the football that well, then bad things can happen. And another thing, too, is that he's also kind of a young guy, and that's kind of the dilemma in getting a young quarterback to be your backup as opposed to a veteran quarterback to getting your backup. Obviously, the advantage is you can get one on a rookie deal, but the disadvantage is that he might not make as good of reads as a veteran quarterback would, and this play is a great example of what I'm talking about, where they're going up against a cover 1 blitz once again, and for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they actually have a great concept to try to beat man coverage here. They're going to have those 2 receivers run those 2 routes right there, but actually the key route is going to be the 3rd receiver who will run essentially a pick play, just get in the way of another New York Jet, and then probably what's going to happen is Duck can hit the Jet who's running out to the bottom half of the screen. They can pick up the 3 yards and pick up the 1st down, which is what really matters here. But after the ball is snapped, it actually works out perfectly. I mean, if you look at Duck's options here, he has 2 options. He can throw it deep, or he can try to just throw it shallow and make sure he picks up the 1st down. But keep in mind, this is not a cover 0, this is a cover 1. There is a safety who's deep, so if Hodges decides that he is going to throw it deep, that could result in some trouble. However, he's going to take this chance anyways. He does throw it deep, and the safety is able to run over and intercept the ball. Even though that receiver did win his one-on-one matchup, the fact that a safety was able to see what was going on and run over really was the difference on that play. It just wasn't the right read there. He sort of forgot that there was a safety who was deep. He should have made the short throw and just gotten the 1st down so they could have moved on from there. But he didn't, and it cost them points in that situation. So really not the correct decision by Duck on that one. They decided to say, you know what, we've seen enough. We're going to put in Rudolph, partially just because Rudolph he's just a better thrower of the football. He has more arm talent, and so that's why they decided to put him in, which I do understand. Yeah, sure, he sometimes makes more bad decisions than Hodges will, but if Hodges is now making bad decisions, then you might as well get the better arm talent out there. So that's what they're doing with Rudolph, and this play is a great example of what Rudolph can do well, where it's a cover 1 hole, and there's going to be a receiver running that route right there. And so that, looking at it on paper, great route against this type of coverage. And after the ball is snapped, you will notice that it is open. So this is definitely the type of throw that Rudolph should make. It's what he's going to make, but look at his throw. Just a great throw. Very accurate throw. Allowed his receiver to have a chance to run after the catch, although it was a good tackle, so that didn't really happen too much. But really a perfectly accurate throw, and he got it there quickly, and so that's why they made the move to get Rudolph in. And it made a lot of sense, I thought, even though, I mean, listen, Rudolph's not exactly a stud out there, but maybe he can just add a little bit of juice to that offense. But I think even with Rudolph, the offense had some problems, and honestly, some of the problems weren't even his fault entirely. Like, on a play like this, the way the play is designed is it's 3rd down and 5, and so what they're going to do is they're going to have their tight end go out to block that edge rusher right there, but he's not really going to. He's going to sort of fake as though he's blocking, but very quickly run a route, let the edge rusher get by him, and then it'll just be a quick pass to him, and they can try to pick up some yards. Pretty much, the Steelers coaching staff is doing whatever they can to not have the ball in Mason Rudolph's hands for very long on a crucial 3rd down when the game is tied 10-10. That's the way this is going. But the key block for Pittsburgh is actually going to be the right tackle who's going up to block Jamal Adams. That's the key block. That's what I'm going to want you to take a look at, because take a look at what happens right when this ball is snapped. He helps with a double team and doesn't really totally realize what he's supposed to be doing on this play, it looks like, because he's looking towards the bottom half of the screen, and Adams is actually higher to the top half of the screen than he is. There's also one more thing I want you to take a look at, and it's hard to really put a blame on anybody, but if you look right over there, there's a receiver who's open, and the reason I'm bringing this up isn't to say Rudolph should have made that throw, because he shouldn't. I mean, Rudolph has to just do the smart thing, do what the play is designed for. He doesn't have time to look around and see if anybody's open. He has to get it to his tight end quickly. That's the way this play is designed for. That's what he does, and Adams is able to make that quick tackle because a right tackle didn't realize what he was supposed to be doing on that play. But the real reason I find this play interesting is actually, well, there's actually a couple reasons. For one thing, I think it goes to show that having a quarterback that you don't trust can really hinder an offense, because if Ben Roethlisberger is there, they would trust him, and since he had a receiver who won a one-on-one matchup, if Roethlisberger's in there, he makes that throw and they pick up the 1st down. But because they didn't trust Rudolph, they went for something simple like a tight end screen, and it didn't work out. The other thing is that I think that there is some blame to be put on Mason Rudolph for a tackle not knowing what he's supposed to do. Part of what a quarterback's job is to help tell the offensive lineman what to do. Now, it's possible that he just screwed up and messed something up. That is absolutely possible. But at the same time, part of me does sort of feel like there definitely has been a noticeable drop in the way the offensive line has blocked from when Roethlisberger was in there to when Rudolph was in there, or even Hodges. And I think part of the reason is because of the quarterback play. An element of a quarterback's job is to help the offensive lineman out. Again, I don't know if this one play was actually Rudolph's fault or whose fault it was, but I do feel like as a whole, this is a good example of showing that when the quarterback, there's a reason why the quarterback is the most important position in football, basically. Not just because he touches the ball the most, but because he has the most to do. It's his job to help everybody out. And on that play, somebody didn't know what they were doing. At the end of the day, you have to blame that person first, but then you also have to blame the quarterback and the head coach, honestly, for not finding a way to make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And one more thing about Rudolph that I do have to criticize is this play where it's going to be a cover 1 blitz, and he has a receiver running that route right there. So on a 3rd down and 4, a one-on-one matchup in a situation where the safety won't be able to get over there since it's going towards the sideline, this is the route that Rudolph kind of likes. So he takes a snap, but look at how quickly he fires this throw, and he doesn't really throw it that accurate, but also the pass was just dropped. So that's a problem for several reasons, right? For one thing, it's not the best throw. Mason Rudolph, he might have better arm talent than the Duck, but that doesn't mean that he has great arm talent necessarily. And also just the receiver didn't help him out, couldn't make that catch. So those are a couple of reasons why I think that the Steelers team just has some problems, and they have some things they have to work on. Admittedly, most teams would have their problems when they lose their Hall of Fame quarterback, so I do actually think that this season as a whole is a win. Even if the Steelers lose Week 17 and miss the playoffs, I think it's still going to be a win as a whole. But I also think it's worth mentioning that the quarterback play definitely is hurting this offense to a large degree, and I think if they do miss the playoffs, that will be the reason. And, you know, that's why there's the expression, you're only as good as your backup quarterback, because the difference between a team like the Saints and a team like the Steelers is the Saints were able to go undefeated with Bridgewater starting, whereas the Steelers, they were able to tread water with backup quarterbacks, but they weren't able to totally take over. And also, I mean, Breeze came back, whereas Roethlisberger just isn't going to come back this season, so also that small difference. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I still do think they have a chance to make the playoffs. I'm not going to call them dead just yet. I mean, Week 17 against the Ravens won't be a gimme. I mean, yes, the Ravens will probably be playing their backups, but you know what? The Pittsburgh Steelers are basically playing their backups. So you could absolutely see the Ravens winning that football game. And also, there is a very real chance that the Titans beat the Texans Week 17 because they came very close to beating them Week 15. So definitely either of those two options could happen. But I do think that the Steelers, they're still in it, even though it's kind of an outside looking in type situation. Even if they do make the playoffs, I don't really know exactly how far of a run they can make. Honestly, I'm not quite sure if this is the type of team that could go into Kansas City and pick up a win. Seems unlikely, but hey, you never know. And at the end of the day, it's Week 17 and you're still in it, so at least you have that going for you. I'm sure there were points this season when you certainly thought that that was not going to be the case. But anyways, yeah, that's what I thought of this game and the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they will be going moving forward. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.